Hey everybody, welcome back to Thumb FPV. Now, this is the Digi-Hex build that I've been working on for a little bit of time now. Today we are going to get into the 9th video of this series, and this is the second to the last video. This is the configuration for it, setting everything up in Betaflight, and getting it ready for its maiden flight. This will mainly be in Betaflight as far as the configuration goes, because that's where all the software and firmware updates are done. So we'll get right into that right now. Check this out. Alright, so here we are in Betaflight. We have our HEXACOPTER hooked up. Regardless of the fact that I've been looking at this and building this for the longest time, it is still really the hardest thing to not call it a quadcopter. Why? Because this is the first FPV hexcopter I've ever had. So if you hear me slip up, don't pay any mind to it. It's just a wordo, like a typo, but a word. So we are in setup here. Not really anything to do in here. I do have the accelerometer turned off. I'm going to jump in here to the ports real quick. As you remember, I do have my RxTX MSP connection set up to UART 6. That has been enabled. So we do have a couple of the little things in the beginning taken care of. So that being said, we're going to jump in. We have this. Still the HEXACOPTER, everything down there. We have our system configuration, 8 gigahertz, 2 gigahertz. Probably mess with that in a latter part of this video. Our accelerometer is turned off. Our ESC values over here look to be about decent, at least for now, up until getting this where we need it to be. We are at SBus spec set with our receiver here on the side, which is exactly where we need to be. Also, the serial receiver provider is set to SBus as well. We will not be putting this in 3D mode, as far as I can tell, for ever. I'm going to build a different quad for that. Beacon tone is 1. Everything down here is just pretty much all turned on. If I decide to get into that at a later date, then that's fine. Let's see. We have our voltage meter set up, power volts, blah blah blah. Scale divider. Now that's going to be after the maiden flight when I go through and make sure that everything is synced up right with the OSD in the goggles, as opposed to what you're seeing here. Sometimes that takes a little bit of tampering. Sometimes it can be right on. Sometimes it can be off by 0.2 or 0.3. Sometimes it can be off by a lot, depending on what you're working with. We're going to leave our filtering pretty much here in the center where it's at. Rate settings, I'm going to leave these pretty much where they're at. I do not know how this is going to behave as of yet, so I'm going to get a good feel for how it actually works and go from there. I'm also going to leave our default filtering on here. I do plan on getting into doing some RPM filtering on this. I do just want to take a little bit of time to check that out. As far as hexcopters go, there may be a specific thing in there I need to pay attention to. There may not be, but like I said, there are some things on here, as far as the tuning at least, that we will not be doing in this video. This is just basically getting it ready to go. So everything is good here, even though we do not have 14 auxes in our DJI Mode 2. Sit over here. We'll get this flipped over there to Spectrum as far as the channel mapping goes. I'm going to hit save on that. CPU load is nice and low at 3%. We have 0 pack errors. Cycle time 125. Okay, so receiver of our modes here. I'm going to add a range. I like to just automatically put this to aux 1. That's what most of us do. Leave that there. Now I like to take and bring this through, and I'll show you why in a second. We'll go to our horizon mix. We can find it. Angle mix. There we go. This is what I was looking for. I misspoke myself. Okay, add a range. Now I like to keep this aux 2, so I'm going to do that, and I'm going to leave that right where it's at in the middle, so you have nothing for when the quad is this time. Then you can flip into either your angle, your acro. I don't think really anybody uses too much of a horizon or angle mode. You use horizon if you're gonna fly. The angle mode, there's not really too much for that. Okay, beeper, I'm also gonna add a range for that. I'm going to make that aux 3. And sometimes I bump the switch a little too far, so I'm just going to go ahead and bring that all the way through. I'll have 1 for off, 2 for on. Sometimes you get clambering around, you hit it, and it's beeping, you can't find it, and then you're like, oh, I hit the thing. So we'll just leave that there. We're going to save that. And I believe that's going to be about it. I do plan, at least for right now, on putting the battery on the bottom of this, which is going to leave the motors pretty exposed for the most part. There is a little bit of clearance. I might put like some form of, I don't know, like a dorsal fin on the top of it or whatever. But as of right now, I do not plan on adding a turtle mode to this. I also think if this thing crashes, like it's pretty much done. The carbon fiber on it is pretty thick. It does have plastic arms, so I'm literally trying to make this for more of a recon drone. Just get out there and carry an extra camera, even though you don't really need one for the most part with DJI. I do have GoPros. I do have the Beta FPV. The SMO camera, and I am looking into getting one of the newer GoPros when they come out, given the fact that they're literally not the size of a VCR. So we have our modes done. Check our motors tab. We don't really need anything in here right now. OSD, what do we want on this? That's not going to be a thing unless I put it onto custom. Don't really think I need anything on there. The air unit pretty much covers everything. There's not going to be a VTX. Not worried about the black box. I was worried about the configuration. Okay, now to check this out real quick, I'm going to go back into here, and I'm going to reestablish connection for the accelerometer just to make sure that I'm getting the right amount of signal to the drone or whatever. I have put it on. Now I'm tipping the drone from the back directly down forwards, and as you can see, it is sideways. So I want to make sure that while I'm going into the configuration on this, that it is actually going the right way, because we need to offset the sensors. So first gyro 180, clockwise 90. I am going to take this and just basically believe it's add 90 degrees to it. So we're going to hit that, 270, save and reboot. And now if I'm correct, I should be able to tip this straight forward and it should lean the way that I want it. And it does. Okay, so that is correct. You do have to add the 90 when you take and you turn the controller clockwise, you add 90 degrees. If you turn it counterclockwise, you subtract 90 degrees. So, alright, that has been taken care of. Go back in here real quick and check one more thing before we head to the motors, because the motors is a big part on this. I do not have them set up right. And for that, we're going to go in here and we're going to type resource. And we need to take note of exactly what pins are on the motors according to the flight controller. Now I do have this all written down. I do have motors 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They are not in the exact order that I have them wired as opposed to how they are set up in software. So I need to write down what is where so I can remap them to put them where they need to be. So the way that it is built, we have motor 1. Gotta move a little stuff here. Sorry if there's a little bit of noise. Motor 1 we have at B04. Motor 2 is at B05. Motor 3 is at B00. Motor 4 is at B01. Motor 5 is at A15. And motor 6 is at B03. That is the way that it is reading it in software. Okay, so to do that real quick, I'm going to just give you a quick refresher if you haven't watched the other video. The way I have this set up, now that I have that wrote down, that doesn't matter because I'm not doing anything yet. I'm going to go back in here to the top. And if you know, on a normal quad, turn this around. Okay, so a normal quad, we're going to say this is not a HEXACOPTER. We're going to take out these two right here, and we're going to say this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's how it is. That's how a normal quadcopter is. Now with this HEXACOPTER, that's not how it is. The way that their motors are is saying that this is motor number 1, this is motor number 2, this is motor 3, this is motor 4. This is motor 1, this is motor 2, this is motor 3, this is motor 4, this is motor 5, and this is motor 6. So I need to get in there and resource the motors to match up where they're supposed to go. Because when you go to configuration, it will show you this right here. But I did not hook this up for that beforehand, even though I should have. So what I got to do real quick is write down exactly how mine are set up. And I will show you that in a second. Okay, so this is how the configuration for the drone is, and this is how it needs to be. I do apologize if this is a little wobbly at some point in time. I did manage to break my camera mount stand the other day, whatever. Okay, so the way that we have it set up initially, we have our motor 1 at B04, motor 2 is at B05, motor 3 is at B00, motor 4 is at B01, motor 5 is at A15, and motor 6 is at B03. In this configuration right here, with motors being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now what I did was I went ahead and I rewrote the motors over here with the proper configuration, and then basically just remapped them out on my little scribble board. This thing is hella useful when it comes down to doing stuff like this. Give myself a reminder what I'm doing, that way I don't have to do it right off the top of my head. So motor 1 is going to stay the same. Motor 2 is going to get changed to A15. Motor 3 is going to get changed to B05. Motor 4 is going to get changed to B00. Motor 5 is going to get changed to B03. And motor 6 is going to get changed to B01. Now you do have to hit resource space, motor, the number, space, and then the actual pin number of it every time that you do it. I didn't put that in there, but if you know how to do that, that's fine. If not, I do have a quick resource video, gives you the gist of it. But I'm going to get right into doing this right now in Betaflight. Here we are in our CLI tab in Betaflight. Now I'm going to start remapping the motors for this so that everything is at its proper pin and is doing what it's supposed to do while it's in its right location. Knowing this now, I shouldn't have to do this in the future because I know what to look for, but this is my first hex build, so I was unaware of this. Should have done my research. Anyways, what we're going to do here first off in the bottom corner is we're going to start off with motor 1, resourcing it, work our way to 6, and then we're going to do a motor test to make sure that everything saved correctly. If you've never done this before and you're trying to do something like this and you've seen the motor 4 disabled, motor 2 disabled when you type something in, that's because you cannot have more than one signal assigned to the same pin. Like you can't run two motors off of like B04. It doesn't work. It could be super helpful. I don't know. Anyway, for right now you can't. So I'm going to start off with this. So what you want to do to start off is just hit it, resource, space, motor, space, and I'm going to put 1, and then the pin number I am going to put, I also like to use cap locks on this, it's just proper, it looks right, it's the way that it's in there. I'm going to put B04, and I probably should get some form of disable notification, maybe not yet. They will pop up at some point in time in here if you see them and you're wondering what that is, but we're going to keep going. Resource, motor 2 to A15. Now see, A15 is already signed to motor 5. Motor 5 will be disabled. That's what I was talking about. So we're just going to keep going now that that's popped out. Resource, motor 3, B05, resource, motor 4, oops, to B00, resource, motor 5 to B03, and resource, motor 6 to B01. Boom. Now we're going to hit save. This is going to reboot. Nope. Hold on. I'm an idiot. That is not what you do. In the tab, type save, hit enter. It'll restart. Okay. So now it'll come back up, and we're just going to go back into the CLI tab real quick, and we're going to type in resource, and we're going to make sure that everything's stuck. Up to the top. Okay, so motor 1, B04, correct. Motor 2, A15, correct. Motor 3, B05, correct. Motor 4, B00, correct. Motor 5, B03, correct. And motor 6 is at B01, correct. Okay, so everything did save. That's good. And on the first try. Sometimes, if you have this happen and it doesn't go right away, sometimes just do it twice. I don't know why. I don't know, maybe you hit a typo, maybe you didn't hit space, maybe you put too many spaces, something. Just try it again. It does work. So that's done. So with that being said, I have to do right now is grab myself a battery and double check to make sure the ESCs are going to fire correctly when I plug them in. Okay, so sorry about the angle of the camera and everything, or if you see some random clutter in the background. As I said, my camera mount is broken. All I'm going to do is just plug this in real quick and make sure that the ESCs and everything are still in tune with the flight controller. Boom. Everything sounded good. Okay, now we're just going to give it a quick motor test and make sure that everything works correctly in Betaflight. Alright, so we are back in the motors tab. I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. That way my flight controller does not overheat. Everything's plugged in, sounded off. Props are disconnected. Now one thing, I'm just going to go to the master tab here real quick. I'm going to tap it once and then gradually work my way up to make sure they all work. Okay, they are all spinning. It took them a little bit to get up there. I don't know why it's so high, 1150. They should have been doing it way before then. But the big thing is that they are all working. Okay, now we're just going to double check and make sure that the configuration that showed up in the top, right above the voltage and amperage, is correct. I'm going to make sure that the motors fire correctly. So my motor 1 did fire correctly. The vibration that you heard it's just sitting on the table funny. So no biggie. Motor 2 should be the front right one. Uh-oh, it is not. That is on the other side. Motor 3, where is that? It's down here. Motor 4. It's over there. Motor 5. Motor 6. Okay, so we have a little bit of an issue here real quick. I'm going to touch on this as soon as I get it all fucking remapped and figured out. We're going to do this real quick. Okay, so we were attempting to get what is stated under the target. Again, I do apologize. I'm moving a little bit. My camera stand is broke. Target after resource is what we got. And then, let's see here. The result of it turned out to be on the right. We have our M1 is actually BO4, M2 is BO1, M3 is BO3, M4 is A15, M5 is B00, and M6 is B00. So I'm going to try this one more time real quick, hopefully with better results. Okay, so we are back at this for a second try. I have never, as I said, done a HEXACOPTER before, but I have resourced motors, and I have never had anything like that happen with it be that far out. The only thing that I can think of is that with changing the motor pins and also reorienting the flight controller, it might have thrown something out. So anyway, we're just going to go ahead and get back in here and try to get the patch results on this. So resource motor 1, I don't need to. Resource motor 2 is B01, enter. Resource motor 3 is at B03. Resource motor 4 is A15. Resource motor 5, that's B05. Resource motor 6 to B00. Boom. And save. Always have to save it. now I'm just going to jump right back into this. I'm going to the motors tab, make sure that everything worked correctly this time. Hopefully it did. Like I said, I've never had anything like that happen before. The only thing that I can think of is that I did change the orientation of the flight controller, and that may have had something to do with it. So I understand the risks. There will not be a quadcopter in the ceiling this afternoon. Alright, we're plugged in. I'm just going to test it real quick and make sure that all the motors work. Holy cow. All the motors work. So, starting off with motor number 1. Check. Motor 1 works. Bottom right hand corner. Motor 2 should be top right hand. And it's top left hand. Motor 3. Why is this doing this? Alright. This is not working. Motor 1, motor 2, motor 3. One second. Yeah, 2 is wrong. 3 is actually correct. So 1 and 3, I'm going to mark those as good. Motor 4 can't be good since 2 is over there. Motor 4 is where 6 is supposed to be. Motor 5 is fine. Motor 6 is obviously not going to fire right. Okay, so we have 3 out of 3. We are at 50%. Gonna go over this again and figure this out. Alright, so this should be a quick fix here. I figured out what was going on. Like literally everything was just turned. Motor 2 was in the motor 4 spot. Motor 4 was in the motor 6 spot. And motor 6 was in the motor 2 spot. So, that being said, we're going to go through and try this one more time real quick. If this doesn't work, I'll give you the results right after this. I'm not going to keep dragging it out. So we're just going to say resource motor 2, and that was supposed to be A15. Wait, motor 2 is in the motor 4 spot. Motor 6 is in the motor 2 spot. So we put 2 on 6, and that is B00. Motor 2 is on motor 6, so we need to put motor 4 on B01. And then motor 6 needs to be A15. Okay, everything looks successful. It went through. I'm going to hit save. Straight to motors. It's weird how this is bugging out. Alright, battery on. I understand the risks. Just gonna make sure that everything else is still the same. Motor 1, yes. Motor 2 should be top right. Yes. Motor 3 should be bottom left. Yes. Motor 4 should be top left. Yes. Motor 5 should be middle right. And motor 6 should be middle left. Boom. Okay, there it is. Now that was a little more in-depth and aggravating than I had actually anticipated. That took like an extra 20 minutes to do, but we figured it out. All right, so there is the basic configuration for this guy the way that I have it set up. I'm going to not do anything as far as the ESC update on this video. I don't really think that's pertinent. Everybody knows how to do that. Also, a lot of people know how to do the rest of the stuff what I did. But I'm not going to include the ESC update on this. So for right now, this is the end of the DJI Digi-Hex half budget build. The next thing to do is going to be literally get this thing outside and in the air. Weather permitting, I will have the video for that up this week. So please stay tuned. Thank you for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. There will be one final video, the maiden voyage for this. I will do a tuning video after it, so that'll be like maybe like a 9.1 or something like that. But I'll be sure to do a flight video after I get my certification. So again, sorry for repeating myself, but this is Thumb FPV. Thank you for watching. Have a